What does Little Nightmares 2 Chapter 2 hide from the player behind the scenes and from a game developer's point of view? In this game, we must endure and survive this twisted, cruel universe once again, but this time playing as a boy named Mono. This game in its original state is dark, so there's quite a bit to discover with stuff being hidden off camera and out of bounds. We're going to be taking a closer look at it all, including a terrifying look at how the teacher works in various situations. I'll also be getting Mono into some predicaments that we normally never see him in. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of Little Nightmares 2, Chapter 2, The School. So I'll hit you all with a brief recap before each area, so when we break down that section, you'll be able to follow along without having to remember the flow of events. We had previously just escaped from the terrifying hunter as we floated on towards this horrific city, where Chapter 2 awaits. Entering Chapter 2 from here, we'll find ourselves in a building with a second floor being destroyed, where multiple TVs and a full suit hangs from above. Progressing, we'll have to cross through this alley, which leads us into what appears to be a diner of some sort. You'll see that there are more clothes that appear to be abandoned here, giving off Cell vibes from DBZ. This will follow with one of the first obstacles we must figure out in order to proceed. Our friend will boost us into the next room, where we must then jump up and grab a hold of this rope. This will allow us to swing into the TV that appears to be attached, which in turn will pull us up as we knock it down. Once safely getting up here, we'll then have to come over this way to help our friend get up, like so. Following them from below, we'll see that we're going to have to make a big jump in order to move forward. Not without a little help from our dearest friend though. We'll want to jump across these boards up ahead, but before doing so, if we go this way, we'll find the first glitching remains of this chapter. Now we can go ahead and cross here to push on through. It's here, however, that the player will have their first TV encounter, as this ends up happening in multiple instances throughout the game. The TV's screeching causes Mono to cover his ears, as our movement is hindered while approaching it. Making contact with the TV, we basically need to straighten out the hallway that's being displayed on the screen. Once doing this multiple times, we're sucked into the TV, and we'll find ourselves in this hallway. It's playing in slow motion during this part, as we'll need to run towards the door. This eventually follows with Mono getting ripped right back out of his TV dimension by our friend. At least that's how it appears. Acting as if nothing even happened, we'll push on with our friend and find ourselves at the entrance of the school. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, if we make our way towards this corner of the playground by the dumpster, we'll find another glitching remain. Also, if we go up these stairs and jump onto this dumpster, we'll find the soccer ball hat to add to our collection. If you're going for achievements, you'll want to equip this hat and then proceed to run through this soccer goalpost, as it'll unlock referee. Advancing, we'll climb up the side of the school and enter through the window. Let's go back now though, and get another perspective of what we just went through. Back at the start of this chapter, we'll find ourselves in this building with the TVs hanging from above. We can get up here and walk around, but there's not much else to it. From this perspective though, we can get a better look at the entirety of this alleyway that we have to cross while advancing. Going in to observe this area, we can see that it goes quite far back, with the skybox floating above at the end. With the drop-off being here, I go ahead and warp over to the other side to check it out with Mono. We can walk around back here, but I did end up finding out that we can clip through the buildings, resulting in my death. Coming back over here though, as you can see, we can run really far back here, to the point where it's fairly difficult to see Mono. Not much else to do back here, other than jumping into the void though. I did, however, notice these little flimsy objects falling through the map and out the bottom of it. I came to realize that these are the clothes we normally see falling in the background while passing through this alley. Let's push on though. I felt this diner needs some investigating, so I popped up on the bar and did just that. I can't disrupt or interact with any of the items on the bar, and you'll actually see that I'm clipping through them as they lack colliders on the objects. Same goes for the shelves on the back wall of the plates. While up here, I was able to jump into this fryer. Luckily, it's not on, but I did end up finding myself falling through the following appliance. I found Mono in the oven as a result. Realizing there's not much else here, I freed myself through the destruction of the bar to escape. There we go. Carrying on, I take a peek behind this door, but then find myself back at this team-based obstacle. So instead of going through it, I just warped to the top and decided to move on, leaving our friend behind. I was curious to see what happens without them. Joke's on me though, because the very next area is this encounter with a TV that we end up inside, and our friend will be making a quick return here. If we break away from Mono during this sequence as we travel into the TV, we'll see down below that our BFF isn't letting us out of their sight. However, from this perspective, we can actually see how this whole TV scene works. Up above, we have these two hallways. This bottom hall is the one we end up actually teleporting to, whereas this shaky one that's above is the hall that we're seeing in the TV while we're touching it. I thought this was pretty cool with how they did this, as you can also see the same TV floating in front of the hopped up hallway. Once escaping the TV though, we can see how Mono and his friend will be instant transmission back down here. Pushing on follows with this grand introduction we have with the school building we're gonna have to go in. Like washing up on the shores of the city, I love the view we get here as we're supposed to proceed, in its beautiful gloominess. Zooming out though, we can see this giant skybox that's in the background, which was a grand sight. While taking all this in, that's when something caught my eye, and I went in for a closer look. After changing the view, I realized there was a pair of shoes hanging from the laces all by the lonesome self. How peculiar. Traveling back into the alleyway that's here is quite similar to the one we explored from before. Still, it saved time with not taking Mono back there, but rather try to get him on top of the school. I had a feeling this wasn't going to go too far, but after a couple failed attempts, I was able to get Mono up here surprisingly. Peeking under the roof, we can see where we're able to walk, but it's not far, as we'll fall to our death every time. So much for exploring the roof of the school. Unglorious! Getting back into the school though, let's push forward into this chapter. Once in the school, we're going to want to go down this hall and head to the door on the left. Here we can grab this ball that we'll need, but first, let's grab this paper airplane. If we take this glider back to the window where we climbed in from, you'll get another achievement once throwing the plane out the window, which is fly free. Without the ball, you can see there is a portrait with some eye holes that's in the way, but let's use the ball and move on. This leads us into this questionable room that seems to be a dead end. However, jumping on this loose trap door prompts our friend to come join, allowing us to break through. We'll then follow this passage that takes us to this area, where we'll drop down and continue further in as we enter a small ventilation shaft. This leads us deeper into the school, and gives us a brief creepy peek at what's in store for us, as we can see an entity's shadow retract its long neck in the background. The door will shut, and we'll hear whatever's back there creepily walking, as the steps fade away. It's here though that we'll start encountering Home Alone-like traps as a bucket flies by us. As a matter of fact, we'll see our Kevin McAllister wannabe run away as we push on. We'll encounter more of these traps, as you'll see they're activated by a floorboard. If we go through this first door, we'll be met by, yes, another trap. Ouch. However, heading down this way is the way to go, as we'll want to dodge this locker that drops from the ceiling. This allows us to jump over and into the next area, where if we're once again not careful, or in this case, not distracted by a toy duck, it's our head. Simply ducking will, get it? We have to duck? Sorry. This follows with us continuing our pursuit with these unruly children. However, it turns out that this was more so them leading us into a trap, as they drop a locker on Mono with a small scene playing out. A bunch of these creepy kids will then come out as they surround our friend. They basically abduct our BFF while we're stuck under the locker. Once getting free from the locker, if we try to follow these creeps, we'll see them making their escape through the ceiling, as a ladder pulls them up and out of sight. Let's rewind back to when we entered the school though, and take another look at what we had just endured. Coming back, we had just entered the school, and had to make our way back to this room where the ball is. We can see how they have a backdrop here behind the building, which is solely for these windows. We can see on the outside how there are some spotlights that have been placed in the window, which helps create the look we get when normally entering this room. While checking this out though, I saw a little toy of some sort right outside the room. Getting a closer look, it appears to be this baby man that's holding a pair of arms, as its shoes are stuck in its legs. I'm not sure what to make of this guy, but it's just chilling right outside the room here. With my thorough sweep of the area, I destroyed some of the debris and went back further into this hall. It of course leads to a dead end, but it was worth a shot. Jumping forward to where we see the teacher's shadow, I decided to go in for a closer look. Freezing time, we can see the teacher standing back here with some books and text floating beside her. The text reads, "It's meant to be down here." My best guess about this text is that it was used to remember the position of the teacher when trying to figure out how her shadow would be cast, unless it's for some other object. Anyways, once we activate her, we'll see that she'll retract her neck and then we'll begin to walk, as she disappears shortly after. Once she disappears, we'll still hear her footsteps, in case you were curious. So at this point, I thought it'd be appropriate to check out how the death from the bucket looks in slow motion. If you remember from Chapter 1, when slowing time in the game, it messes with the physics of our character, resulting in some funny death scenes. That is absolutely the case here too, as this bucket sends Mono on one spectacular journey. This whole instance lasts for over a minute, but clearly this ordeal would never take place at normal speed. Breakdancer Raygun doesn't got Jack and her boy Mono. Just look at him go! Anyways, let's talk about those bullies now. These porcelain-like doll children are very hostile and only obey the teacher. We'll see when this creep runs off that he won't make it very far, as he disappears shortly into his run. There's a single building in the background at this part, which is used for the window at the end of this upcoming hall, which has a slightly intimidating vibe going on, if I must say so myself, but these bullies will just patiently wait for us until we approach. When doing so, the first one will run across the hall and into this wall, where he will clip through, eventually disappearing. The other one ducks behind these lockers, where we can see him slide around a bit, before disappearing as well. Hiding in this dead-end room, we can find another bully that's in here, whom I'm assuming set the trap for this room. He just hides in here and remains here indefinitely. Whatever, dude. I didn't want to play with you either. Pushing on, we'll see the one bully that we pursue as he runs away like a Skeletor meme, disappearing shortly after. It's this next part, however, in which our BFF is about to be kidnapped. We can find one of the bullies hiding within the walls, waiting for the locker to be dropped on Mono. We can also see the bullies with the ladder are already loaded in as well. When the locker drops down on Mono, you see how he'll vanish once inside. Meanwhile, our friend is clearly in trouble. Watching this play out as we're trapped sucks, but if we watch them drag our friend off screen, we'll see that all of them will disappear one by one. Mana will reappear within the locker though, as he'll make his way out of it. When trying to reload this scene, I'm not sure what I did, but I think I broke the sequence. After loading in, the locker falls towards us and will delete Mono, despite his position. I don't think this is supposed to happen. Something else I noticed is that the bullies are now abducting an imaginary friend, as you can clearly not see our friend. Where'd they go? Warping over to where they took our friend, I skipped over the trigger for the bully on the ladder up above this door. As you can see, it simply appears once activating it. The ladder and bully will make their way up, where they remain indefinitely, along with this other bully who runs across a board that slides over the hole. Confusion sets even further in as our BFF returns when I move forward. I could not interact with them and found my camera locked in this general area. It eventually ended with me trying to progress as this bully up ahead began chasing me. This results in an unavoidable death. Thanks for the help, BFF. I think it's time to reset the game now, so let's push forward some more while we're at it. It's now time to take our anger out on the loss of our friend by inflicting destruction as we grab the sledgehammer and go to town. In this next room, we can beat them at their own game, as they'll doom themselves with their own trap. However, it's this next area where we'll see that we need a key, and as we progress and search for this key, we stumble upon a class that's in session. We have to sneak through this classroom without getting spotted by the second antagonist of the game. If she does see you though, she'll send her porcelain students, known as the bullies, after us. If this happens, and you manage to get to the next room and quickly climb this bookshelf, you can cause the bookshelf to fall on all the bullies, resulting in another achievement, Bully of Bullies. Once we get the key though, the teacher will come investigate, as we discover that she was a long-necked creature we saw from before. At this point, we need to splinter cell our way out of here as we sneak our way through the classroom once again. She spotted me during this instance, so I bolted for the elevator and managed to make my escape. Let's rewind back though, and take a closer look at what we just went through. I previously destroyed these bullies, however, I wrecked these fools once again, but in slow motion this time. Because why not? It was interesting to see how the bullies' models reacted to the game being slowed down, making for some fun payback. Moving on, I decided that I wanted to bring the sledgehammer with me to the teacher's classroom, which normally isn't possible. What could go wrong though? Well, I go in strong and destroy the first one, however my downfall was that I held my position. I feel like if I was more aggressive, I may have survived this. No matter, in another instance, I ended up hiding behind the barrier that keeps the player from falling off the map. This results with a pretty uncomfortable stare down, as you can see, but what I found even more entertaining is that the teacher will just stare us down if we decide to walk about all over her desk. Knocking down the bookshelf with a key on top, we can see how the teacher will move over and then begin walking towards the door. I'd like to take a second to reflect on the terror that is this teacher though. She reminds me of E.T., the extraterrestrial, except obviously 10 times more terrifying though. Nightmare fuel. It's almost like she's playing games with us, as she appears to know exactly where we are with her eyes looking down at us. When she decides to retreat from the room, she'll slide back a bit as she walks over to where we'll stand until we progress. Before testing the limits of the teacher, I went ahead and deleted her from existence. This allowed me to free the bullies from her terror, but as you can see, they simply don't react. Now, it took me a few tries during this part to see how the teacher reacts to chasing me. She nearly gets me here, as you saw, but I believe I'm too far now, seeing that she decided to send her bullies after me instead of chasing me herself. I tried this again, thinking she didn't leave the classroom, but was poorly mistaken, as it got snatched up by Miss Stretch Armstrong. It was the third attempt, where we're able to see that she'll come out of the classroom, but stop right at the lockers, freezing in place. The bullies were released, so I tried deleting the floor to possibly prevent them from stepping up into the next room. I would take them out myself, but it does not work. So I did the next best thing and hit on top of the locker. The bullies will come running over, as they are visibly upset with not being able to reach me. I will give them this, they do have hops, but it appears I'm safe from them. Warping over into this back room, I wanted to see if the teacher would react, but ended up only having the attention of one of the bullies instead. We'll see that these three simply have no idea what's going on. Meanwhile, the last mono that got eaten by the teacher is pleading for us to just move on already. Joking aside, not much else can be done here, outside of reawakening the trauma of elementary school experiences. So let's get back up on this elevator and continue further into this chapter. Making our way up and out of this elevator, we'll stumble upon a bully that appears to be busy. He's tied up like a dog and clearly wants blood. If we can evade this bully without harming him, it comes with an award, as we'll get an achievement when progressing to the next room. The achievement is Merciful Feet. We'll then make our way into this next area where the teacher is lurking down below. Alerting her as we come in, we need to hide, as she'll come investigate the disturbance. With that in mind, we just need to avoid dropping anything during this part, as we make our way up. However, we need to push this board down in order to escape, which will prompt her to investigate again. So we need to be quick. This follows with a big library area that we'll enter, as the teacher also enters from the background. We need to move this ladder to progress, but before doing so, if you place the ladder here, it'll lead you to another hat we can obtain, being the tin can hat. Once getting up here to progress though, we'll alert the teacher, and this brief horrific chase will occur as she tries to gobble us up. We basically have to play hide and seek with her as we traverse these towers of books. She will eventually give up looking for us, and we'll leave the area as she walks off to the next room. Let's revisit everything we just went through though. Coming back to the elevator, we can see how the school is loaded in at this point. We can get a better look at this bully's work of art as well, but not much else is going on at this part. So I execute the bully we were merciful to last time, and move on. This next part is where we encounter the teacher, as she's below us and appears to be repeatedly hitting something with a ruler. Coming down here to get a closer look, we'll see that she's in the middle of this room as she slaps her ruler into the air. It's almost as if she hurt her left arm, given the position it's in. But zooming out, we can get a look at the entirety of this section with the teacher. I decided to drop a bottle on her head to see how it plays out from down here. Her body straightens out as she begins to elongate her neck. Something tells me that I shouldn't be standing out here in the open like this, so I decided to just let her take me. She'll proceed to gobble up mono, as you can see. However, I believe the speed of the game could have been affecting this kill. But regardless, it does not look like a fun time to be mono, that's for sure. What a horrific way to go. We can come down here though and run around, as she appears to be cool with it. In this section, the teacher will only react to objects that are dropped from above, if I had to speculate. In one instance, she got me through the wall, and I was able to get a brief look at her doing a T-pose during this. It didn't last long though, as the game reset. When we escape though, she'll retract her head back down, and then make her way to the door, where she'll eventually disappear. It's not long before we once again see her though, as she'll appear in this back area once we progress. Instead of using the ladder to proceed, I decided to go ahead and start deleting these books and shelves. Coming back here does not bother the teacher one bit, but I did learn that it's impossible to take this way, as the camera will not follow us back here. Unglorious. We have to take the normal route to progress, and when doing this, if we come back here after being attacked by teacher number 1, we'll see that there's a teacher number 2 that finishes out the rest of this sequence. Number 1 will stand here indefinitely, as number 2 makes her way to the next section of this obstacle. So I did the same exact thing, and started deleting the bookshelves. Once done, I jumped on this first tower of books, and discovered that the teacher still can't see us, despite us being directly in her view. I got brave and ended up jumping over to her, thinking she was going to be as harmless as teacher number 1. That's clearly not the case though, as our view is obstructed while she devours me, with the game resetting. Something I learned, which makes sense, is that if we grab her attention here, and then retreat back from where we came, you'll see that she only has one attack to spend, as she begins to carry on, like we just completed the section. Normally, we'd be on the second tower when she attacks, making it a do-or-die moment for us, but I digress. Loading up this checkpoint with the bookshelves gone, we can see that the teacher loads into the game in a strange manner. Getting a closer look, we can see how most of her body will contort as she peeks around the non-existent bookshelf. It looks rather painful, if I must say so myself. She'll leave this area though, and if we follow her, we'll see that she goes through the door, only to disappear immediately after. I tried seeing if she'd react to me being in front of her here, but she pieced out with zero interest in me. I also learned at this part that if I try to teleport while the game's frozen, as I'm hanging onto the book tower, we'll glitch out Mono. He'll continue to hang onto the books as the teleport continuously tries to rip him away, making for a wild sight. Let's carry on as we normally would though. After pulling this box of books over to open the door, we'll pursue the teacher as we enter this room with a big staircase. Going upstairs and to the right will lead us to where we need to go, as we need to put the top of this chest piece back on in order to open the door. This leads us into a chest room, where we must place the correct top pieces on the lower ones. There is a guide you can find drawn on the wall here to help us. Doing all this, and then pulling this light that activates, will open a secret compartment in the background, where the key we need is located. After using the key, we need to venture down this hall and move this cart over to the right wall so we can climb up and out of here. Before doing so, we can enter this room on the left though. We'll find an individual that got carried away with the food, but more importantly, we'll find another glitching remain. Glorious. Moving on is where we have this battle with a few bullies, as 3 of them will attack us after destroying the unsuspecting first one. Taking one of their heads, we'll end up needing to wear it as we pose as a bully. This grants us safe passage to the next area, which involves a lot of bullies, well, being bullies. There are so many bullies throughout this scene, it makes sense why Mono is holding on tightly to his bully disguise. This follows with needing to push this button we can't reach, which leads us coming up here to push this container off the edge, in turn letting us take the brain that was inside the container and throw it at the button down below. We finally caught up with the teacher though. Following her into the next room, which is another classroom, we'll need to traverse the countertops here. So carefully doing this, Wait, she heard me! Oh god! Okay, that was close. Anyway, making our escape brings us to more bullies to destroy. There's a lot of them, but with patience and accurate swings, we shall prevail. Eventually we'll find our friend, who is strung up in this bathroom. Once saving our friend from these creeps, the 2 of them will have a nice reunion as Mono assists his BFF. It's now time to go back and see how this all plays out from another perspective though. So we just evaded the teacher, and now we're approaching the area right before the chess puzzle section. There's always going to be a backdrop like this whenever we encounter windows, as you can see here, but it became clear quickly that not much was going on in this chess area. So I went ahead and partially deleted this cabinet and snuck in to grab the key. This next part is where we fight a few bullies right before acquiring our disguise. However, I couldn't help but notice this one in particular that appears to be, well, I'll let you be the judge of that. Regardless, I don't think anyone should be eating whatever's in there. Speaking of which, we can find Picasso over here making a work of art as he draws in the scoop with his sausage. Yes, I know how that sounded. But anyways, he clearly sees no wrong with what he's doing. Meanwhile, there's chaos ensuing in the cafeteria area. There's a lot going on over here. From meatballs being tossed around the room, to this guy running wildly in place. I believe this was due to freezing time, because in another instance we could see him running about in the background like this. There's no order here, and no sight of the teacher. You'd think she'd hire a teacher assistant of some sort to help contain this madness. Once defeating these bullies, we need to put this mask on. We can see how Mono's hat will shrink as he's getting ready to put on this mask. He basically puts it in his torso, where it continues to shrink and disappear. I can't imagine this being a comfortable stroll for Mono while wearing this mask, with the chaos taking place around him on top of the blind spots that he probably has while wearing it. I think it'd be a panic-inducing experience. Although, I guess he wears a paper bag, so maybe he's chill. So there's some bullies here when we enter this hallway, they'll eventually run away. Following them shows that they will drop through the floor once they're completely out of our sight. Other than getting a closer look at all these bullies' miserable lives, that's all that really takes place here. Moving on, I noticed that Mono wasn't re-equipping his hat for some reason, but we have to give his brain in a jar now to open the door. We now have that scene where we encounter the teacher, and have to avoid her as we make our escape through this biology-looking classroom. I did some exploring behind the scenes here, but managed to find little to nothing going on that isn't in normal gameplay. The teacher will disappear if we bypass her though, as you can see. So I don't know why I didn't try this before, but it's time to pull out the Ant-Man suit. So I went super big to start off, and quickly realized it's going to be pretty difficult to navigate the halls of this size. We can't pick up the sledgehammer like this, but the bullies can't get us either. However, the bucket will destroy us, even if it grazes Mono. So after some troubleshooting, I deleted the bucket, then readjusted my size. Now, I'm not too big, but big enough to not get captured by these bullies. Their efforts are futile. Running down this hall is hilarious, as Mono appears to be running on ice. I ended up killing a couple with his bucket trap, but then struggled, as I tried to make my way into the next room. I realized I made a mistake with going big, seeing as I need the sledgehammer to free our friend. So I ran back to the hammer and got super small. Can you see me? Zooming in, we'll find Mono struggling to exist, as his hair waves all about. His arms appear to be in a, uncomfortable position. Existence is pain. It was incredibly hard to keep my eyes on Mono. I'm hardly visible. The best part, though, is that we can pick up the hammer. The process of killing the bullies is odd looking, but it could have something to do with a sledgehammer clipping through the ground. So we make our way back to free our friend. With the handle looking like a fin poking through the floor, one could say we're a hammerhead shark. Badum-tis. Let's just destroy all these fools in front of our BFF so they can see how much we care. It took a few extra attempts due to my size, but I managed to break the board holding the rope. Yay, we're back together again. Yeah, wait. Now I need to know what happens when the teacher interacts with us while in Ant-Man mode. So I quickly went back to the classroom with all the bullies and smashed them, even the peaceful ones. Meanwhile, the teacher will just watch as I do this. I tried taking her out with a sledgehammer, given the opportunity, but as you can see, it wasn't working. Making myself big gets no reaction out of her as well, obviously. But when I tried to make myself a little bigger, I ended up getting stuck. This resulted with Mono in this constant state of falling, appearing as if he were dancing. Just look at him go! The teacher is clearly impressed with his moves, as she stares at his feet. But making Mono a big boy while the teacher strikes is still a futile encounter. Let's continue on with our friend though, as we would normally. Carrying on, we'll make our way out this window as we cross this questionable wooden board. This leads us to a piano that we must raise into the air in order to break through the ground. However, if we get up on the piano first and run across the keys, we'll get an achievement: monotones. Once pushing the piano through the floor, we'll then be tasked with having to get this key from a lone bully that's right outside. Our BFF will play on the piano, which distracts the bully, as we're then able to grab the key and swiftly destroy the bully. Having the key now, we can progress to this next area, where our friend will go to town on another bully. I sort of ruined it for them though. This will eventually lead us to some stairs and dressers, where we'll end up making our way into this room where the teacher can be found playing on the piano. For this entire scene, we must sneak down below so we can lower this walkway that allows us to escape this room. We must not move when the teacher stops playing the piano, because she will hear us otherwise. Once we find our way back up, we'll cross over and make our way out. This initiates probably the most terrifying chase scene in the game, if you were to ask me. The teacher will pursue us through these vents as she elongates her neck and violently pushes through. We'll get to a point where we need to jump as we narrowly escape this humanoid giraffe. From here on out, it's a pretty lax adventure as we cross this big but scrawny bridge. We'll then have to push this dumpster into position so that we can make our way up here. Immediately after this, if we go to where this paper boat is, we'll come across the final glitching remain of this chapter, giving us the school kids achievement. However, it's in the next area that we end up with a reveal that the majority of you are probably already aware of. Our BFF is, well, it's actually 6 from the first Little Nightmares game. The True Colors achievement will unlock as this reveal takes place. However, this leads us to the end of the chapter, where we end up making our way into the hospital. We now have the achievement for completing the chapter Schooled Now, so let's go back for a final time and take a closer look at this last segment. So after saving 6 from the bullies, we can get a closer look at the following one that we encounter once going outside. We can find her just digging this key into a dead frog. Clearly, she's enjoying it. If we take a wider look at this current layout, we can hear the teacher playing the piano, but the room isn't loaded in yet. So we're going to push forward from here and to the teacher, as not much occurs here outside of normal gameplay. Getting closer, the room will load in, but the teacher is still missing. It's only after we get up on this first counter that the teacher will load in. She'll just continue to play her Symphony of Death as she tweaks her musical piece. I mean, you gotta have hobbies, right? So let's see exactly what the teacher does here when she pursues us. She'll begin stretching her neck and head towards where we escaped. However, she'll snap into a T-pose, which is when we see her face pushing through behind us. We've always got to remember to have good posture when hunting our meals. Once narrowly escaping her face, we can see a second teacher rising from below during this. This teacher is the one we end up seeing poke out of the hatch we escaped from once we're outside. The second teacher will come back in and eventually come to a rest. It's quite an interesting execution between the T-posing and facial expressions. We can backtrack through here with Mono, as well as clip to the teacher's neck. We can go up and down the vent as well, even with it appearing to be damaged. 6 will patiently wait for us as she stares at the teachers. I also ended up finding a couple of bullies hiding here that I must have missed, as the world unloaded and revealed them while I pushed on. The teacher is starting to catch on to our game-breaking antics though, so we're gonna get out of here. And with that, that's everything I found behind the scenes while breaking Chapter 2 in Little Nightmares 2. This has been quite the adventure so far, and I hope you enjoyed this out-of-bounds endeavor. I'll see you in the next video soon for Chapter 3. Cheers!